Why, hello there. Thursday, July 14th has turned into Friday, July 15th in 9 minutes here on the East Coast. Let's talk about baseball. So I've kind of hit my stride here, updating this algorithm. It's complicated, but it's also starting to get predictable. And I mean, you can start to see weird stuff here already for tomorrow that we can talk about. But the MXP factor, which was an addition just about like a week ago, probably. This number over here, this number means something. This number filters into the Google Sheet, and we sort by it here. And by gosh golly, I'm telling you, it's meaning something. I'm happy with what I'm seeing because games are making sense. Even games we're losing are making sense. And so I'm going to talk about that. And also we'll go through tomorrow because the algorithm is so good at this point that we're making lines. I mean, I called the lines almost exactly before they were announced yesterday. We'll do that again today, and we'll probably be very, very close because the algorithm is so extensive in what it brings in that it's just doing the right thing. So we'll talk about today. Toronto lost to a AAA Kansas City. So Kansas City always has had a strong minor league program, and it shows today because I didn't even know what was going on here, but I talked to a friend of mine to go, I was like, yeah, I go, if Gausman's pitching, I'm sure Toronto's going to be a big favorite. He's like, that's because they're taking on the farm kids. Like, yeah, it was a lot of people that were not vaccinated. Shocker, Kansas City, not heavily into the vaccination, ain't making it across the border into Canada. So it didn't matter though. The roster that they had, we'll see how these guys hit tomorrow because I'm going to add in the player stats and batter stats when they're updated before the first game probably around noon or something tomorrow. We'll see. I'm busy, but I will take the break to update the new stats for the day. Those guys will have statistics now. They don't have that before today's game, which is why you ended up with holes in Kansas City's lineup factor. And also, like, who are these guys? I mean, Bobby Witt, I recognize. A lot of these other guys, not so much with low ratings. So they probably played a bunch of new guys, plus the two guys that aren't even on there. But point is we'll get that updated and we'll get a better look at them tomorrow. So the look that you're seeing today, which is right here, if we go to today, I'll finish off with Thursday for a second. So Toronto loses that game. Crazy line, ridiculous. Cleveland wins convincingly. The Yankees game was ridiculous and they lost 7-6. But if you saw the bet I made, I took over 5.5 runs and they somehow hit that like down 1-0 in the 8th inning or whatever it was. Unbelievable. So there you go, Cincinnati bullpen. Yankees get there. Atlanta wins but doesn't cover, and they don't get over 5.5 runs. They get stuck at 5. I listened and watched that game as a Washington native here, and that was fun, but they didn't get there. So should have taken them on the money line. Houston wins by 1 in extra innings. The Dodgers, convincingly, very consistent with what the algorithm did. Algorithm had them winning 4-2. They went 4 or 5-2 when they went 4-0, I think. Minnesota gets crushed, but now you're starting to get to MXP factors below 20, like I've talked about. Look at that. And so here you start to get some barber pole action, even though we did hit the Mets. That Marlins barely win in extra innings. San Diego gets crushed, I believe. I can't remember the score of that game. We'll take a look. And this game's still going on. It's 2-2 right now, actually. So we don't have an answer there. Seattle, I guess, comes back to win as an underdog line, and Boston loses by a run. So all this stuff, basically, you should have stayed away from. And what that looks like in the Google Sheet here is you have Toronto and the Yankees on top, and then Cleveland, Atlanta, Dodgers, Houston. And I believe that's where I said cut it off because the MXP factors were all above. Yeah, we're there. So you do only go 4-2, and it's not really a winning day. But this craziness with Toronto, I mean, what could you do there? Everything lost. They didn't hit runs. They didn't hit anything. So let's look at Friday, and let's predict some lines because we're the best. The algorithm is the best. I say it. I wait to get sued because I'd love to get sued because it would be funny. Because I'd be like, oh, really? You're better than the algorithm? Please show me. Because I know I already beat the odds makers. So you're beating the odds makers and you're beating me. Every time I compare to anyone on YouTube, if they beat the algorithm in one day, it happens one day and then they just get crushed. Everybody, doesn't matter who it is. try to find someone who beats this thing. It's just not possible. It's just too good. So, all right, we got Baltimore on a winning streak. Here we go with a 26% margin over Tampa Bay. This is going to be a fun one to predict. Dodgers at Angels. At Angels, yep. And then Seattle at Texas, and then Yankees. Ooh, Yankees at home versus Boston. Well, let's take the easiest one to predict first. The Dodgers are going to be somewhere up around the minus 200s because I don't know who's pitching for the Angels. Let's take a look. Sandoval, who's pretty good. So the line will be about, the Dodgers line will probably be about I'll say minus 180. Might even be minus 175. Sandoval is okay, but it's still the Angels. The Angels will be plus 145 or something like that. All right. That is about, I don't think they'll be higher than Houston over Oakland or Atlanta over Washington. I think they actually, just like today, they got bumped up a little bit, and their line was one of the better ones. Right here, minus 154. So I think that's going to be kind of similar, but Kershaw's really good, so that might push them to minus 200 actually, or a little higher. I forgot how good Kershaw is. Let's stay away from that Baltimore game for a second and go down to Seattle, Texas. Now, Seattle was a slight underdog today, and in this matchup tomorrow, for Friday, you've got 5-2 game. Robbie Ray is pretty good, and Taylor Hearn is not so much. So they will be favored barely. Seattle will barely be favored here. Minus 120 and even money on Texas. That's what I think happens there. Then we've got down here the Yankees in Boston. Wow. So Yankees should win that game. 29% power. Jordan Montgomery. Let's look at the pitching stats there for a second. That game has Eovaldi, who's also good. All right, this is actually not going to be that bad because there's big extra money on Boston. And so in this sense, this game probably is actually something even like this. It's going to be like 110 and minus 110. I bet you it's almost something like that, or maybe minus 120, 100, something like that. So that will right where it's supposed to be down here. All right. It's calling that green. Interesting, because they're all favorites if we do it this way. Wow, there actually isn't an underdog on the list. That would be amazing. And they have Miami all the way down here at minus 165. So Philadelphia is supposed to give Sandy Alcantara a better run for his money. So now let's talk about the Baltimore game. So Baltimore is playing better and on a nice streak, but they're still Baltimore. But I think they're starting to change people's minds. I was actually really close to Baltimore tonight. But what is this Luis Patino nonsense? So that's why Baltimore is too high on the list already. Now, does this pitcher have last year's stats? He does. We're going to use that because obviously 0.2 is unacceptable as a sample size for a pitcher. So we're going to change that. And now almost every pitcher has more than 35 innings. Now we're going to refresh. This is why we have to review and sanitize the file. That pushes the game down here. And so he's kind of more unknown this year, and he might not be the primary. I don't know what's going on, but Tyler Wells is pretty darn good. So you might even get an underdog line. I'm sorry, Tyler Wells is Baltimore's pitcher, and he is very good. Luis Patino is a new guy untested. Okay, wait a minute. All right, now I understand what's going on. And he got rocked in 0.2 innings. Interesting. Well, 5-3 last year, though. All right. So this game is very tough to predict the line on, but we will say that Baltimore will actually be favored a little in something like that. So I expect the lines to look like this. We'll see how close it is to that. It's my best guess. And now what do? Well, this is supposed to be easy. That's why I started off the video saying I've kind of hit my stride with this. Well, guess what? I already did all the handicapping with this number. And you don't need to think. That's the whole point of this, is we we shouldn't be thinking we are mere humans. And this is half robot. This is all robot. And I'm the half of it is me adding stuff to it, but it is doing all this for us. Oh God, I got to write times in. I can't stand that. All right, team. Let's go paste the rest of the stuff in here, starting at team, because the pick ranks are going to resort themselves throughout the day. That made this kind of like half dynamic. And there's 15 games today. This was only down to 13. Bring that down to 15. And voila, we've got our 15 games. We've now updated right now. Look at that, at midnight. As early as you can update. We've updated. I'm not going to do wind and weather yet. It's not all that awesome. It sometimes helps, but it's, you know, whatever. Like today, it didn't help, especially when the wind is blowing in. It seems to be not working right. Now, 15 and 32, I believe. Let's see if that works. Oops. Oh, don't do that. Hold on. Just screwed everything up. Undo. Cancel. Undo. There we go. 7, 15, 32. Yeah, that's what we wanted. 15 games, right? I think that's it. Yep. And voila, we now have the look by MXP factor when we zoom in on this. And everything above 20 is what is, and there's even one that's really close to 20 here. St. Louis against somebody. San Diego, but these games are all below 20. So that means there are 7 picks that are above 20, and we're guessed on Baltimore, Seattle's line. So they're here. They look like they're all favorites. You got ridiculous Toronto stuff against Kansas City. That tells me stay away from this. So we know that this number is junk. That our MXP factor is junk because we don't have the correct lineup yet. So for sure, this is going to change tomorrow when we start filling in these holes on Kansas City. And these guys who have maybe ridiculous averages, if the new guys hit today, I'm not sure if they did or not, but we'll see what that does to this. So, but pretty clear stuff is the Mets are only minus 130 and quite high on this list at 48 MXP. Dodgers, which is a line that I guessed at as well, I believe. I guessed it's 3 of these lines. Atlanta over Washington, Houston minus 200. So these are the ones that should win. And that is basically the update for Friday. So good luck, everybody. If you want to copy the Excel file and a subscription to the Google Sheet for the rest of the season, because we have hit our stride here. I could still, we'll have some bad days eventually, and it'll make me want to reevaluate percentages here. It'll make me want to reevaluate potential other things like batter percentages and stuff like that. We'll have to see if something like continues to end up being a problem. But I am pretty happy with what's been going on with the MXP factor, because even on a day like today, like I said, tough loss with the Yankees, weird stuff going on with Toronto, Kansas City, Barber pole stuff below margins here, but the stuff did win, and stuff like the Dodgers, and Atlanta and the teams that just couldn't lose their games, right? Day before, solid stuff, right? Day before, bad times, but look at the MXP factors. These two, one of them's a win, but they were below 20, above 20. Actually, this was a really bad day on 12. It happens. 11th, only one above 20 and it won. Day before, I don't have results for the 9th apparently. 8th, 23 loses there. 7th, yeah, I mean, you're going 4-1 with your MXP factors above 20. 6th, here, look at this. So you got MXP factors here, and they're losers, but your winners are on top. So it's still doing a lot of good things. Not a good day. Yeah, look at this. The MXP stops at 31, and that's where your solid wins stop. That's awesome. That is exactly what I did this for. It's not just the margin, because sometimes I'll be like, don't go below 20% margin, don't go below 10%. But it wasn't about just margin. It's about power too, because look at the weak power of Cleveland in this game and they lose, even though their margin's 9. It's really important, and have more powerful 20% here with Atlanta that wins. Also, you see the MXP factor actually bumps up to 13 on this game here. This stuff is awesome. I really love what the MXP factor is doing. And so you don't have to think, and you just take these teams and maybe you stay away from Toronto. Oh, it's Manoa at this time. Maybe you go with an under. So maybe you don't play this line with Toronto because it's ridiculous to pay that line. And we saw how it's still baseball and these are players we don't even know. But the other games like this, where's Baltimore? Baltimore drops down to here. We'll see what the lines are. All right, guys, I've talked enough. Good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.